To This Week in the Peace, a show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region.
Good morning, I'm Dub Craig. Welcome to This Week in the Peace.
And I'm Caitlin Coombs. Later, we'll be talking with Neil Evans about the 2026 Crystal Cup coming to Charlie Lake starting February 20th.
But first, Inga Lake, northwest of Fort St. John, needs upgrades to the dam and infrastructure in the area, but there's currently, as we understand it, no funding in place to deal with this project. And as such, it will have to be decommissioned or something's going to have to happen in the near future. The lake has been a popular spot for fishing and camping since it opened in the 1970s. So to talk a bit about this situation and how it's unfolded and his organization's involvement in Inga Lake, we're joined now by Bruce Harrison from Ducks Unlimited. Bruce, welcome to This Week of the Peace.
Hey, good morning, Dub. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time and your personal connection to this, which we'll get to in a minute, as you are born and raised in Fort St. John and worked for Ducks Unlimited while in the Peace as well. So you really understand what's going on. Why don't we start with that, though? For someone who hasn't heard this story already, which will be very few people listening, tell us what's happening at Inga Lake right now that's caused this stir.
Sure thing. So Ducks Unlimited Canada co-manages Inga Lake with the province. The province holds the water rights and controls and looks after the fishing aspect of the lake, but we actually look after operation of the dam and the water control that's at the end of the lake. We've been working with the province for a couple of years to try to secure funding for this. The reality is that our traditional funding sources just aren't enough to help us to rebuild the lake at this time, rebuild the water control on the lake anyways. Inga Lake was, it's a relatively old project. It was built in the 1970s by an oil and gas company, actually, and it's exceeded its lifespan. So given that our dam safety regulations in BC are pretty strict, the time has come to make a decision on this one. And unfortunately, it's a fairly big price tag. So we're actively looking for partners on this to help cover the majority of the cost on it.
Mm-hmm. Those dam regulations, I had to get one of those in, Caitlin. Anyway, let's talk about what was Inga Lake before, because as I understand it, it was sort of a wetland, a kind of marshy area, I guess, and then the dam was built to kind of build this spot. And that's really what we're talking about when we say infrastructure needs repairs, as you say. The dam, which is now 40, almost 50 something years old, actually, is way past its lifespan and needs to be repaired or replaced. Is that kind of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, that's where we're at. It was built in 1970. The province became involved in the 70s and 80s. Ducks Unlimited didn't actually enter the picture until about 1988. Mm-hmm. We rebuilt and restructured the dam a little bit right around 1990, 1991. So it's been in its current form for over 35 years now. And it's gotten to the point where it's an older structure. It needs some help. Mm-hmm. And given the dam safety regulations in BC, which I mentioned are pretty strict, if it can't be kept in very, very pristine, good condition, you have to either rebuild it or decommission it. And so that's where we're at right now. We're at the point where we need to make that decision.
Yeah. Let's talk about what that looks like. I mean, you say it has to be rebuilt or replaced or fixed or what have you. What happens if it doesn't? I suppose that leak just gets bigger and like what's kind of I suppose a worst case scenario if we did absolutely nothing here. What happens?
Doing absolutely nothing just isn't an option.
Okay.
Ducks Unlimited Canada is responsible for this dam. So one way or the other, the dam will be taken care of. Mm-hmm. We take public safety very, very seriously. We inspect it regularly. Our inspectors will be out there as soon as the snow melts in the spring. And they identify any concerns or sources of risk well in advance of them becoming a public safety issue. So,
gotcha.
So failure is not an option for lack of a better phrase.
Okay, well, let me
will be dealt
rephrase
with
it.
one way or the other.
I'm sorry, Bruce. Let me rephrase it then. We decide, okay, we don't have the funding in place. We're going to decommission the dam and I suppose remove it. What happens to Inga Lake then without the dam there?
Without the dam, so there will still be a wetland there. The dam will not disappear entirely. There was probably always a lake of some description there, even prior to the 1970s. But the reality is, it will be smaller by about half, and it would be shallower, and that would have implications on its recreational use. It would not be the same kind of fishing experience.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to avoid that. That's sort of the least desirable option in this case. We want it to be there. We want there still to be that recreational opportunity for people. My organization takes people strongly into account in what we do. We manage wetlands for waterfowl, wildlife, and people as well.
Mm-hmm.
People are part of our environment too. So we don't want to take that recreational opportunity away from anyone.
Yeah. And we should say, again, for people who don't know, and I hope I'm using the right terminology here, the lake is essentially stocked with fish, right? There aren't fish that are there or were there before. So that it's kind of a recreational fishing lake in that way. And again, if the dam gets decommissioned, the fish will disappear as part of that, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, so we would follow whatever salvage procedures that the province asked us to take at that point. The reality is that over time, the stocking would not be continued. I can't speak much to the stocking. That's really a provincial responsibility.
Sure.
We don't deal with the fish, and I'm a habitat biologist, not a fish biologist. But yeah, the situation for fish would not be quite as good. So over time, they would start to disappear. Whether they would disappear entirely, I can't speak to that. That's a fish biologist question.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the situation as it unfolds. This starts to come out, I think, mostly because of a presentation that happened with the Peace River Regional District 2 weeks ago or something it was. This story kind of breaks and, of course, causes quite the uproar. People saying, I've been going there with my parents. My grandparents took me fishing there. It's a popular recreation spot. I wanted to take a moment to talk about kind of your connection to the place, because again, you grew up here. You must have visited Inga Lake.
I did. I have fished there. I have spent a fair bit of time there. When I first started with Ducks Unlimited in about 2001 now, that was one of the first DU projects that I actually visited, and I worked on the log boom at the time. I've spent a lot of time on that lake, and we understand that it's important to people. We do get that, and we appreciate the passion people have about it, because I share that too. I'm a Peace kid myself, so it's a special place for everybody, particularly special for the people who kind of live that far up the highway and have been going there forever.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the funding sort of issue, which is really what we're talking about here. Let's talk a bit about that. So Ducks Unlimited is sort of, as you say, in charge of kind of the maintenance of the lake itself, I think, as I understand it. But Ducks Unlimited doesn't have a funding source to do this project at the moment, and as such, the province, other sort of funders is what you're looking into. Yep. Why is that changed? Because again, like in 1988, as you say, the Ducks Unlimited got involved, and I believe built the dam that's currently there, or at least maintained it. Why is that changed, and why is that? What is, I suppose, changed from then till now, that this isn't Ducks Unlimited that can now just kind of keep going forward with this?
Yep. The reality is, this is a big, expensive project. It's our most expensive project in the BC Peace. We have several dozen projects up there, probably 50 or so. Not all of them have water controls, but certainly most of them do.
Yeah.
So we have a fairly large number of projects in the Peace already that we look after, and we keep them safe and functioning with our traditional funding. It's just the magnitude of this one that's kind of pushed it outside of our funding capacity, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
We do have 2 or 3 staff who are full-time in the region, but they do have a lot of projects to look after, as you can appreciate. Yeah, we're optimistic we can find a solution to this. The province has been a wonderful partner on this. We're still talking with them. We did the presentation jointly with the provincial representative, and we think there's a solution here somewhere. We wanted to bring it to the public, though, just to elevate the issue and make people aware that, hey, for some of these very large capital projects, traditional sources of conservation funding just aren't enough. Construction is expensive these days, and this would involve heavy machinery to rebuild it.
Okay, yeah, because I think if I remember right, some of the numbers, the high end was a mill and a half or something, which when you think about the provincial budget is not a huge number in terms of things. So is this a matter of the government didn't really know this was happening and they're just sort of being aware of it in terms of the ministry and funding it, and maybe this will turn around because they're like, oh, we do want to keep this, and they just, because they're in the Lower Mainland, that maybe they just didn't know this was here and that people cared so much about it?
Yeah, that's tough. The province, they've got a really tough job, and there's Inga Lakes all over BC. So I can't pretend that this is the only issue that's in front of the people who determine where the conservation money goes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to point any fingers at the province. They are our partners, and they are actively looking for solutions here too. It's super complicated. They have been trying to find solutions for years. So I don't think it's coming as a surprise to the local people, anyways.
Okay.
They've been aware of it for a while. They've been looking for a while. They're continuing to look for the funding to rebuild this guy. They're good partners with us. We partner on many projects throughout the province, and I'm confident one way or the other, we're going to find a funding source for this.
Okay. And I guess the final question for you too would be, in terms of even Ducks Unlimited's involvement going forward, what's kind of a timeline where I feel like 2027 is what I heard for, that's kind of the year something's going to happen. So pretty quickly here, is that kind of the timeline we're on for, we have to find out one way or another and make a decision on what's going to happen? Or, well, as you say, there's no option to just not do something. Something has to be done.
So it depends. The dam and the water control are in good shape right now, and they're not at risk of failing. But that's one of the things we have to think about. If we should find out that there was a more imminent risk, well, then the timeline would have to be sped up. We'd like to make a decision by the end of 2027. But if it goes a little bit beyond that and the dam is still in good shape, then we're flexible. We're not going to set a hard deadline on this that's artificial. Really, it depends upon the condition of the structure.
All right, Bruce. Well, we're going to leave that there for now. I appreciate you making some time for this to tell us about it. And obviously, we'll be checking in as hopefully progress is made towards getting some funding lined up to maintain that dam. Bruce, thank you so much for talking to us today. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. That's Bruce Harrison with Ducks Unlimited. He called us today from Kamloops. We're going to be talking with Neil Evans from the Crystal Cup right after this on This Week in the Piece.
Incredible softness, exceptional durability, unrivaled stain resistance. Bronze Flooring is pleased to feature Calm Ambiance carpet from Bolio on sale all month long. Calm Ambiance carpets are without a doubt the most comfortable flooring for any home. Choose from 3 in-stock colors for just $2.99 per square foot for the month of February. Plus, Bronze still has lots of ceramic tile and vinyl plank reduced to clear. Bronze Flooring in the Big Bronze building on 96th Avenue and at bronzeflooring.ca.
Explore a vibrant marketplace and cultural hub where Indigenous craftsmanship and entrepreneurial spirit thrive. 548 Trading Co. proudly showcases an ever-changing selection of handcrafted goods from local Indigenous artisans, available on consignment. From traditional medicines and gifts to stunning moccasins, jewellery and unique supplies, there's always something new to discover. Experience the heart of Indigenous creativity. Visit 548 Trading Co. today, across from City Furniture in Fort St. John.
Get ready, because the next Fort St. John Métis Society's weekly bingo will be this Tuesday at 7 p.m. We'll be playing 4 games in total this week. 200 for the anyone line, 300 for the X, 500 for the big picture frame, and a blackout jackpot worth $1,000. Grab your grade cards for just $5 at the Fort St. John Métis Society office, and more locations listed at moosefm.ca/bingo. Don't miss the Fort St. John Métis Society's weekly bingo this Tuesday at 7 p.m. at moosefm.ca/bingo. Must be 19 plus. Use your game sense. Know your limit. Play within it. BC Gaming Event License number 165020.
Get trained, get certified, get home safe. AAA Safety and Field Services offers industry-leading safety training that meets WorkSafe BC standards. From first aid to confined space, H2S to fit testing, AAA Safety and Field Services trains the people who keep your job site safe. Right now, you can use promo code AAA to get 10% off your first booked course.
Check out the full selection of courses online at AAAsafety.ca. That's AAAsafety.ca.
Winter's here. Are you ready? At Ace Instruments, we've got the heat you need. From Catadyne and Haslock heaters to electric heat tracing, we keep your site running in the cold. Plus, we manufacture and rent custom chemical injection packages, backed by specialized technicians ready to assist. With 3 locations and decades of experience, Ace delivers solutions that work when it matters the most. Need real service and answers? Choose Ace. Visit ace95.com or stop by today.
You can watch this show live on Facebook, catch the replays at energeticcity.ca, or be part of the show by texting your thoughts to the Fort City Chrysler line at 250-787-2222.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Caitlin Coombs. The Crystal Cup Pond Hockey Tournament is a time-honored tradition here in Fort St. John and takes place on Charlie Lake. This year, the Crystal Cup is returning from February 20th to 22nd as a part of the new and expanded 2026 Fort St. John Winterfest. Joining us today is Neil Evans, the president of the Crystal Cup Society. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start. For Crystal Cup obviously is something that's been happening for 12 years here in Fort St. John, but for the very few people who might not know, what is the Crystal Cup? How did it start? Kind of what's the history behind that?
Well, way back in January of 2012, we were invited as part of the original High and Ice Winterfest, part of the city, as to have an event that was hockey related. So we drafted up a plan, and the south end of Charlie Lake was the chosen destination, and we gathered a few friends, mostly just beer league guys, and made it happen. There was a handful of us, a couple other volunteers, and the first year out on Charlie Lake, we had 28 teams. It was all adult divisions, one general division, and it went well. So we continued on, carried forward from there on in, and stuck with the High and Ice Winterfest for another couple years, but then kind of became our own entity, very much so, and became a lot larger than we had ever thought it would be. We started adding, different things on that we thought would be really cool for the public to experience. And then eventually it evolved into a very, very large pond hockey tournament with the most ever teams, I think, being 112.
Wow.
From all over Western Canada. We had teams from Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, Grand Prairie, all over the place. So it's evolved into this festival out on the lake, and it's just amazing every year how many people come together to make it happen between the volunteers, the sponsorship, the committee, and everything. And it's flourished. And to this day, you never know what's going to happen out there this year and what we're going to bring. So. Yeah.
Well, we were talking briefly before we got on here about how last year was, I think we referred to it as slush cup, where it got so warm and there was so much water. And we've had a lot of temperature changes so far this year. What are you kind of hoping for this year as far as this condition of the ice?
We're hoping for some nice, smooth ice. We have, of course, we learn a lot. Every year we learn something new. We're at the mercy of Mother Nature at all times. And you never know what you're going to get. You look at the beginning of this year, you had an enormous amount of snow throughout December, causing several feet of overflow in portions of the lake. We've been watching the ice carefully. Our little section there, which is roughly about 10 acres on the south end of the lake, and we feel that we're good to go. No serious concerns with the ice, and we're going to be doing hot water floods again this year. So hopefully everything goes well and the weather stays moderate at least. I mean, anything in the plus, the ice gets really soft like it did last year, very soft to the point where it shaled badly. But ultimately, we want to see a -5, -10 year would be perfect for us. But again, Mother Nature comes in and we'll see what we're dealing with.
Yeah, because it's, especially where you're outside, you're on a pond, it's a very different environment from, say, the North Peace Arena, where it's really temperature controlled and you can bring the Zamboni out anytime. How do you manage that? And like, I'm assume there's kind of that sweet spot where it can be too warm, certainly, but it can also get way too cold to even think of playing outside.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, we always keep safety at the forefront. We don't want to make sure anyone gets injured, especially from the cold. You get the north wind coming right off the lake. It is brutal. We have had very cold years in the past where we give players the option often to, bundle up and play if you so desire. And if you don't want to, you can't. We've never canceled it because of the cold, but came very close a few years for sure. And also what the cold does to the ice, it creates massive fissures. The ice moves and does bizarre things with weather. You look at last year when we were out there setting up, and I think it was about -25, -30 weather, and then there we were, +12 direct sun, and just absolutely thundered the place. So you never know what you're going to get.
And that kind of temperature whiplash, it means that you kind of, especially with these events, you have to be on your toes when it comes to this, because you, like you said, you're setting up in -20, and then the last day you're
you have to watch
going
the weather.
Swimming.
Exactly, you have to watch the weather like a hawk and be prepared for whatever comes at you. I think it was mentioned there before the interview. One year we thought of squeegees because it was direct sun. It wasn't shaling the ice, but it started pooling up everywhere, and we ran out and I think got a couple squeegees and did what we could to keep play going. And that's all you got to do, right, when you're dealing with Mother Nature. So
absolutely. What goes into, okay, you go out, you're on the ice, you're trying to figure out whether it's safe. What are some of the parameters? Is there like a checklist? How do you know when you're on the ice that it's safe for the games?
So safe for the games, I mean, you're looking at the depth of the ice and the strength of the ice. We learned a lot over the years about quality of ice, the cracks and fissures. This year with the big melt that occurred there, our first spring, now we're dealing with our second spring, it actually melted down, and what we understand from reports that we received is there's layering out in places of the lake, but there's also areas where it's 22 inches of solid ice.
Wow.
So what a lot of people don't realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the south end of Charlie Lake is very shallow, very shallow. We've been over 100 meters out and drilled a hole through the ice and hit mud. Wow. If you can believe it. So the majority of the site right there is actually frozen right to the ground. And I mean, we monitor it, we do drilling, making sure that the ice depth is safe enough. What we don't recommend to anyone coming out to the event is don't park on the lake, especially in large clusters. It's always unpredictable. Ice is going to be ice, and you never know how much weight it can withstand. Very hard to gauge. So don't park out on the ice. There's parking spaces all over the place at the south end there, so take advantage of that.
Only play on the ice, don't park on it. Duly noted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's go back a bit. You said it's grown significantly. You've got multiple teams. For this year, what age ranges, categories? There's a couple different cups on the website. What does this year's Crystal Cup look like?
So, I mean, we don't change it too much, the format year to year. We have our adult divisions, which we have the open general division, and then several years back, we broke it up actually fairly early in its inception to the Cole Cup, which is the old boys, 40 plus. And then, of course, the women's division. So that's your adult divisions. They play Friday, Saturday, and they wrap up their championship games usually on the Sunday. Whereas the Sid Davis, we break it down into the divisions to reflect minor hockey, the age groups U7, U9, and up, and even development breakdown. So the scheduling of can be very complex, and that's why we usually in registration well in advance.
And I think I saw it's been extended, this year's registration, to February 13th?
That is correct. Yeah, it's registration's got one more week from today. It's a hard cutoff just because of how elaborate the scheduling can be. Very elaborate, and can take days and days to kind of navigate and go through, which our good friend Gillies handles.
Great. And do you ever have an upper limit? Like how much space is left for now? Is there any point where someone could register and you just wouldn't have room for that team, or is there no upper limit?
We try to make every team that registers part of the event in some way. And even those individuals that are spares, we try to really encourage other teams to either pick up people that are looking for teams. This year we'll be posting a few spares that have already contacted us that are looking for a team. So we want to make sure that if anyone wants to get on this event, we try every effort possible to get them in on this event because it's just that fun and so unique.
Definitely. And let's say there's someone listening in who has like 10, 15 friends and they want to submit a whole team. What are the rules? Are there any like restrictions, caps? Like how do they go about registering a whole team?
Yeah, so you can pick up a pack down at the Tourist Information Center at the Pomeroy Sports Center for registration, or right online at thecrystalcup.ca. And there is limits for the adult teams. You're allowed a roster of 6, but only 5 dressed at a time. So 4 players, 1 spare. These games are quick, 15 minutes, 3-minute break, 15 minutes. So you don't need an alarming amount of spares at all. So usually 5 is a good number to have. But for the kids division, I know that there's some kids that are newer to skating. So we allow a roster of 8, but it's still all 4-on-4. Yeah.
Sounds good. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a volunteer-led event. So how does that work? How do you find volunteers? Are you looking for more? Like, what's that about?
Yeah, so it is. It's absolutely, it's a volunteer event, or like a community event put on by the community, if you will. We're all just volunteers wanting to do this event year by year. We're very passionate about it, and we've attracted a lot of people, friend groups, and even people I've never met that just come out each year to help us. They just love the event. They love being a part of it. It's really cool to see. We're always looking for new volunteers. The amount of setup we do between the Tuesday and Friday before the event is absolutely insane. The amount of hot shots to and from town, countless. Everything from light towers to supplies to food runs for the volunteers, you name it. So we're always looking for anyone that's willing to help. Be out on site helping us with any task, anything, because it can get wild. Especially look at last year, we had to quote unquote pivot several times, and we scrambled. And luckily enough, we had enough people that deeply care for the event that helped us out, and it still kind of went through and became the slush cup with boots on, and people still had fun. It was awesome. And
that's the goal, isn't it? Where can people go to register for event? Is there someone they should contact to just be like, hey, I want to help? What does that look like? Yep.
So that would be to myself. Contacts on all the posters, but there's a general inbox that we have. It's info@thecrystalcup.ca. Any questions, any concerns, you want to be a volunteer, you want to be a sponsor, hit up that email and we will get back to you.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Neil, and I look forward to this year's Crystal Cup.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That was Neil Evans. Big thanks to Bruce Harrison from Ducks Unlimited for joining us today, and thank you for tuning in.
You can listen to the show again by checking out the podcast at energeticcity.ca/podcast. There's this episode, future and past episodes that are going to be there. And make sure you take some time to check out our locally produced and award-winning podcast Before the Piece as well. That's our show. I'm Dub Craig.
And I'm Caitlin Coombs. We'll see you next time.
Join us again next Friday morning at 10 for another edition of This Week in the Peace, your weekly talk show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region. Or you can listen to this podcast again at energeticcity.ca.